Hi, I'm Simon K. Jones, and this is an article called Breaking the Rules is More Important Than Ever. It's quite a long one, so you might want to get a cup of tea or go for a wander or something. It's getting increasingly difficult to be mediocre. Being average used to be a solid career path and often would yield far greater financial success than being an outlier at the top or bottom of the quality curve. Pumping out generic action movies or having a team to ghostwrite an endless series of cookie-cutter crime fiction novels was a valid business plan. I'm not casting judgment here either. I've enjoyed many daft movies, books and TV shows, including formulaic action and superhero fluff. It's sometimes fun to be mindlessly entertained. That entire business model is on fire, because it's the most at risk from the tidal wave of generative slop coming our way. Creating music, movies and text that is just like everything that's come before is now phenomenally easy. Combine this with an unfussy audience that is seeking quick fun rather than high art, and the market for airport paperbacks and superhero A punching superhero B becomes instantly saturated. Even the slop market won't function usefully for long. The only winners will be the tech giants and the monopolistic studios, licensing their characters and content. When I was a teenager, we'd sometimes rent an obviously stupid movie from Blockbuster to watch with mates. Snacks, drinks, a silly forgettable movie to poke fun at. The future is rapidly approaching in which teenagers will instead get together on a Friday night to buy DLC packs of Marvel and DC characters, then auto-generate a fight between Batman and Captain America. Buy the Peppa Pig pack and have Peppa be the villain trying to destroy the world. Boarding a plane and want a holiday read? Input your prompt and out pops your perfect murder mystery set in the exact location you're travelling to. That larger, popular middle is going to be unrecognisable. A friend of mine noted earlier this week that most brilliant works are done by subverting norms of the medium. This has always been the case, but it used to be very optional. To have any hope of keeping our heads above water in the 21st century, it's now mandatory. To be anything less than daring means disappearing into the mulch. It's more important than ever to understand the rules and to break them. Tangent incoming, so brace yourself. I studied film and English at university, long ago before there were iPhones and YouTube. Being a predominantly theory course, there was a lot of reading and watching and dissecting of the forms, whether it be literature or film. My 19-year-old brain quickly cottoned on to there being an awful lot of rules. As I learned the rules, I began to understand why all the stories I'd written as a teenager had felt flat. Filmmaking in particular is a rules-based medium. Literature, being older, has kind of absorbed the rules such that they're less directly visible. As a universal communications tool, writing is something we've all internalized to some degree, regardless of whether or not we would describe ourselves as writers. Filmmaking is a rarer thing and is asymmetrically balanced in terms of creators and viewers. Like, we've all read books and written words. Most of us have watched movies, but actually very few of us have tried to make a movie. Even as passive viewers of cinema, we still rely on the rules. Continuity editing is a convention that made it possible for viewers to associate meaning between multiple shots. There is cause and effect in the way a film is shot and edited, which most viewers will not be consciously aware of, even while their brains are actively processing the rules to derive meaning. And I'm just going to go into a nerdy diversion into film theory here. So the most basic form of continuity editing is the shot reverse shot. This is most common during dialogue scenes. And if you're a filmmaker or comic artist, bear with me as you probably know this stuff already and can just hit the fast forward button or something. To take the most obvious example, let's say you've got character A who is talking to character B. The first shot, the first angle will be on character A as they say their line, and then we'll cut to the second shot to see character B's reaction. These are very simple shots, but even here we're seeing a bunch of film rules at play. So character A will, let's say, be positioned in the left half of the frame, and is looking out of frame to the right. In the second shot, character B is on the right half of the frame, and is looking left. The shots are basically mirrored, and shot 2 is the reverse shot. As viewers, we understand that character A is looking at character B, even though we don't actually see them on screen together. The specific framing, the eye lines of the characters, and the way they are facing all contribute to the viewer's understanding. If you take the exact same shots, but this time have character B positioned on the left half of the frame, like character A, you end up with some confusion. The link between the two characters is broken, and they're no longer seeming to look at each other. It now appears that they're both looking in the same direction at a third point of interest off screen. Even if the two actors had actually been filmed together on the same set and had actually been facing each other during filming, the chosen camera angles result in a confused sequence for the viewer. The trick is to imagine an invisible line connecting the two actors, like a piece of string. The camera needs to stay on one side of the line if the filmmaker wants to maintain positional consistency within the scene. Ignoring this rule is called crossing the line, and doing so carries the risk of confusing audiences. Obeying these rules is how actors can be shot on different days and on different continents and appear to be sharing a scene. At the dawn of cinema, all of this had to be worked out. Framing of an image had evolved for centuries in painting and illustration, but running a sequence of moving images together in order to build a cohesive narrative was a new challenge. Over time, filmmakers figured out how to string together completely different shots in a way that builds a cumulative sense of meaning. There are many more rules, of course. Each rule was a breakthrough when conceived, and now simply defines what a movie is. The point is, if you stick to the rulebook, you will end up with a film that is coherent and makes narrative sense to viewers. There's also a good chance that it will be quite boring. The rules are needed to bring something into existence in the first place, but breaking the rules is what makes it interesting. That process requires time and experimentation and confidence. It's why sitcoms and very low-budget movies produced on tight schedules tend to stick to the core filmmaking rules and rarely stray from them, while bigger movies are able to take risks and push the boundaries of what's possible with the form. To come back to the start of this piece, and what this is meant to actually be about, producing a mediocre novel or movie that works is relatively simple. Learn the rules of your chosen medium, follow them carefully, and the end product will get the job done. It will likely be a lot like everything else, and that used to be okay. The problem now is that generative AI is slurping up all of that middle ground and pumping out facsimiles at absurd speed. It's increasingly hard to distinguish average human output from typical machine output. We're seeing this with published books and magazine articles which then have to be retracted after it emerges they were written by AI, or the reverse when writers are falsely accused of using AI. We've already reached a point of uncanny uncertainty. A possible remedy, or perhaps a final line of defence, is to intelligently and consciously break the rules. Artists operating at the top of their discipline have always done this, but we're all going to have to start having a go at it if we want to stand out from the slop. Something that can be frustrating to anyone starting out in a new art form is that we really need to understand the rules first before we start bending and breaking them. Blundering about breaking the rules by accident or in ignorance will cause confusion, and we won't even understand why. There's no skipping over the first stage. Think of your favourite books, paintings, movies, music, TV shows, games, and you'll likely find that a lot of them are the ones that broke some of the rules or redefined them. Fortunately, learning rules is easy. You can pick apart good and bad examples, or grab a theory book and read up on the essentials, or watch YouTube tutorials. Knowing when to break the rules is the tricky bit, because almost by definition it's impossible to have a clear rulebook showing you how. It's not really rule breaking if everyone's doing it. Subverting rules and doing the unexpected remains, for now at least, a very human endeavour. The entire point of subversion is to prompt an emotional reaction of some sort, and knowing when and how requires lived experience. And the thing is, machines are quite bad at this. The interplay between rules and rule breaking can be observed by its absence in most AI-generated videos. Watch enough Gen AI videos and you'll see oddly similar shot construction. The subject is always in the centre of frame, continuity is muddled, contrast is perfect, lighting is from a studio catalogue, and everything is very literal. An individual shot can be superficially impressive, but that cumulative building of meaning is missing. This is likely happening due to a collision of tech limitations and operator limitations. On the tech side, video generators are trained on vast quantities of video, which enables them to create texturally real shots, real in quotes there. The LLMs have no real comprehension of the meaning behind all that training data because they don't have defined models of the real world. In the case of video, they also have likely not been trained on specific filmmaking rules and mise-en-scène. They have instead gorged on everything, on the end results, without knowing the rules that created the training material in the first place. Not only do they not understand filmmaking theory, they also don't know how or when to deliberately break the theory. Sometimes they might accidentally obey the rules. Other times they will break rules without even knowing. Each one of those decisions needs to be conscious and active for the work to have deep meaning. Sometimes AI training data is compared to a human learning from the past. The difference is that while a writer might be inspired and learn from books they've read and writers alive and dead, the key part is when that new writer's lived experience interfaces with the form's history. That's when something new is created. LLMs synthesize but have no lived experience, which limits their capacity to invent. LLMs seek patterns and inevitably lean towards homogenization. Even if LLMs gain a more nuanced model of actual film theory, rather than simply ingesting all the films ever and vomiting them back out again, it's still going to struggle to build something new. In theory, the operators could provide that lived experience and knowledge of when to follow and break rules. There isn't a ton of evidence of that happening, though. The prompt jockeys who ramble on about democratization and anyone being able to make movies and novels and songs rarely demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of their given art form's theory. Perhaps they're predisposed to skipping the theory, to not learning the rules, to taking shortcuts. That's a big draw to using generative AI in the first place, so it's self-selecting. While I wouldn't want to tar every user of Gen AI video with the same brush, a large cohort will be turning to AI specifically because they don't have the skills and knowledge to make films or write novels, and can't be bothered to learn. Neither the operator nor the AI really knows what they're doing. Nothing had been stopping them from picking up a book or watching some tutorials on theory, but they'd never done so. There are, obviously, and always, exceptions. Some filmmakers are doing extremely high-level work that incorporates custom AI for very specific purposes. Visual effects houses are absolutely exploring AI to aid with rotoscoping, compositing, retiming, animation, and so on. Indie filmmaking troupe Corridor Digital have been doing interesting work in this area. The critical difference here is that they are filmmakers to begin with, and know the rules, and are bringing a ton of personal and professional experience to the table. AI is an optional tool to be deployed as and when appropriate. They're not using AI to generate entire sloppy shots. They're experimenting to see how the tech can assist and enhance. Filmmaking has always been a highly technical and complicated medium. Novels, by contrast, are exceedingly low-tech. I suspect once the hype bubble pops, we'll see successful and hopefully ethical integration of AI tools into filmmaking and game production, but meaningful use cases for literature may be harder to find. Kim Stanley Robinson's Galileo's Dream remains lodged in my head because of how it plays with narration and structure. Picasso wasn't just drawing wacky shapes. He had a deep understanding of realism and chose to subvert the rules of the time. Monet's art evolved with his deteriorating eyesight, which is perhaps the clearest example of how direct experience of the world contributes unpredictably to artistic output. Radiohead's Kid A is loved and hated because it tore up Radiohead's sound for something odd and unexpected. Kieran Gillen's comics are thrilling not just for the characters and stories, which are nonetheless very good, but because he's constantly ripping up the rulebook, pushing at the edges of the form, interrogating what is possible, and being quite pretentious in a really satisfying way. This is art that feels dangerous because you're not sure what it's about to do. Given enough time, the rule breakers become the trendsetters. Daring and controversial subversion becomes accepted and incorporated into the core. Via ongoing hegemonic absorption, what was shocking a century ago is now commonly accepted. Art is always being reinvented, subjected to an ongoing cycle of destruction and reconstruction, always striving towards better ways to communicate, with ourselves and each other. Perhaps there will be a form of AI in the future that has a better understanding, a better modelling of the real world, which is able to both comprehend the complex, chaotic rules of art and subvert them intelligently. As with so much speculative AI nonsense, though, it's always vaguely in the future. The tech industry is built on hand-wavy what-ifs. The reality of right now is decidedly more mundane. Bear in mind that back in 2022, it was frequently foretold that by now all novels and movies would be AI generated. The stumbling block from the beginning, I think, has been that those at the forefront of developing frontier tech in 2026 seem to have only a very basic comprehension of art and culture, and barely seem to understand other humans, so I don't see much real progress being made anytime soon. What is certain is that it's more vital than ever to reject formulaic creation, to push at the edges of what's possible, to venture outside of our comfort zones. Generic text and images and audio that is exactly like everything else can be generated at the push of a button and the writing of a prompt. As the ocean of slop rises, the safest drafts will be those built from unexpected materials, piloted by anyone willing to seek out new routes. Defining and breaking rules remains human-powered. Thanks to Matt Plummer for his contributions to this article. You can leave comments, let me know if you agree or vehemently disagree. I'm sure some of you use AI and might not like some of the stuff I'm saying, but if you're using it in a really interesting way, then do share it, because I'm intrigued by that. I've always been a tech person, and I kind of want to be excited about new tech, and haven't been able to for a while. So yeah, any good examples, do let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. You can head to simonkjones.substack.com for more.